Let me ask you something that might sting a little. How many times have you poured your heart out, expecting comfort, and instead received silence, judgment, or a cold nod? Let's be real. Most people don't care about your problems. Not because they're evil, but because they're drowning in their own. The world is loud with complaints. Pain is common. Misery has become background noise. And in a world this distracted, your suffering won't echo back the empathy you hoped for. That's the brutal truth. Most people don't care about your problems not because they're cruel, but because they're consumed by their own struggles. It's not personal. It's human nature. Everyone is fighting battles you can't see, facing fears they don't talk about, carrying weights they don't show. So when you bring your pain to others expecting understanding, expecting relief, often you're met with silence, indifference, or shallow advice. That hurts. It feels like betrayal, but it's not betrayal, it's reality. The harsh truth is this: your problems will never matter to others as much as they matter to you. And once you truly understand that, you stop expecting people to carry a burden they were never built to hold. Think about it. Every person walks through life inside their own mind. Their thoughts revolve around their worries, goals, traumas, and survival. So when you come to them with your issues, it doesn't always land as deeply as you hope. Even those who love you may be limited in their ability to help. Their minds are full, their hands are tied, and their empathy has limits. This doesn't mean no one loves you. It just means most people aren't equipped to solve your problems, or even hold space for them consistently. This understanding should not make you bitter. It should make you strong, because once you realize that the world isn't coming to save you, you stop waiting, you start building, you stop telling everyone what's wrong and begin focusing on what you can fix. That's not weakness, that's emotional maturity. It's self-leadership, and that's rare. You may think sharing your problems earns you support, and sometimes, yes, venting helps, but there's a difference between seeking support and seeking validation. When you constantly broadcast your pain, hoping someone will rescue you, you hand your power away. You turn your suffering into a story, and then you start living inside that story. That's dangerous. Because over time, you might start believing that your problems define you, that you are the victim, that you are stuck. But you're not stuck, you're just looking in the wrong direction. You're looking outward when you should be looking inward. Healing, progress, strength, none of those things come from how many people understand you. They come from how deeply you decide to show up for yourself every single day, even when no one else sees it. Let go of the idea that your pain has to be shared to be valid. It doesn't. Some of the strongest people walk through their darkest days in complete silence, not because they don't feel, but because they know the world is not their therapist. Their growth is personal, their transformation is private. They build in the shadows and emerge when they're ready, not when they need pity, but when they've earned power. So the next time life breaks you down and you feel the urge to tell someone, stop for a moment. Ask yourself, do I want support or do I want to feel seen? Because if it's support, be careful who you choose. And if it's to feel seen, then remind yourself, you can see you, you can hear you, you can be there for you. That kind of self-responsibility changes everything. You stop depending on the world. You stop blaming people for not caring. And you start rising not with applause, not with attention, but with quiet, unstoppable purpose. You become someone who doesn't just survive the storm, you become the storm. People often misunderstand the power of silence. They confuse sharing every emotion with strength, as if vulnerability equals connection. But the brutal truth is, constantly expressing your problems to others doesn't always lead to healing. It often leads to judgment, gossip, or even quiet resentment. Not everyone around you is rooting for you. Some are simply watching, quietly pleased that you're falling apart, because it makes their own chaos feel more justified. This is why discretion is power. Silence is protection. When you start keeping your problems to yourself, you don't just preserve your peace, you take control of your own narrative. There's an important distinction here, being honest with yourself versus being open with everyone. Honesty is essential. You must acknowledge your struggles, sit with your pain, and face it head on, but openness that needs to be earned. Most people haven't earned the right to hear your battles. They haven't earned the depth of your truth. Yet too many people throw their emotions at anyone who will listen, hoping someone will fix them, or at least validate them. But here's the truth: most people don't know how to handle your pain. They either minimize it, weaponize it, or walk away from it. That's not your fault, and it's not entirely theirs either. It's just how life works. Everyone is moving through their own storm, trying to survive their own mess. When you hand them yours, it becomes too much, and rather than helping you, they quietly distance themselves. They stop replying, they start judging, they lose respect for you, not because your problems are wrong, but because you made them public too soon, too often, or to the wrong people. There is a quiet power in holding space for your pain privately. When you learn to comfort yourself, process your struggles, and face your darkness alone, you begin to build resilience that no one can take away. You become someone who doesn't just endure, but evolves. You stop living for validation and start living for transformation. And that's the moment you begin to rise. Do not mistake this for isolation. Growth doesn't mean cutting everyone off or pretending you're invincible. It means being selective. It means knowing when to speak and when to stay quiet. It means building your foundation before you invite others into your house. Because until your mind is stable, every opinion becomes a wrecking ball. Until you understand your own emotions, everyone else's advice just adds noise to the confusion. People talk about energy a lot, protecting it, nurturing it, but what they miss is that energy leaks fastest through words. Every time you overshare, every time you confess your chaos to someone who can't handle it, you give away a piece of your power. Not everyone deserves that. Not everyone can carry it. There is something sacred about fighting your battles quietly. It forces you to look in the mirror and ask, what can I change? Not who can I blame, or who will rescue me, but what do I need to do next? That level of ownership is rare and powerful. It breeds quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need to be announced or explained. So if you're hurting right now, if you're going through something heavy, pause, breathe, talk to yourself before you talk to anyone else. Write it out, sit with it, then ask, does this need to be shared or does this need to be handled? Most of the time, it's the latter. Most of the time, it's about digging deep, staying silent, and doing the work not for applause, not for validation, but because you owe it to yourself to rise quietly, strongly, and on your own terms. You don't need everyone to understand you. In fact, you don't need anyone to understand you at all, because the truth is, most people never will, and that's okay. It's not their responsibility to make sense of your journey. It's yours. Most people are too distracted, too consumed by their own insecurities and problems to truly see you, let alone appreciate the depth of your growth. Waiting for others to acknowledge your effort, to praise your discipline, to see your transformation, that's a trap. A slow, silent trap that keeps you needing external validation for internal progress. The moment you stop seeking recognition is the moment you begin to own your power. When you detach from the need to be seen, you start to move in silence. And in that silence, you become dangerous, because now, no one knows what you're building, how far you've come, or how close you are to everything you once dreamed about. That kind of focus, quiet, determined, relentless, is what separates those who talk from those who transform. Let them underestimate you. Let them forget your name. Let them assume you've quit or disappeared. While they waste their energy watching others and waiting to be seen, you'll be working, improving, growing, sharpening your mind, developing discipline they can't even comprehend. That's the secret no one tells you. The less they know about what you're doing, the more powerful you become. Because your progress isn't diluted by opinions, distractions, or praise. It's pure, it's yours, and it's real. Most people waste their lives trying to be impressive instead of being effective. They dress their wounds with filters, hide their fears behind motivational quotes, and talk about the grind more than they actually grind. But real growth is invisible. Real success is boring. It's waking up early when no one's watching. It's saying no to comfort when no one would blame you for indulging. It's doing the hard things repeatedly without applause, without likes, without anyone noticing. And that's why you need to keep going, even when no one claps, even when they don't care, because you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for the future version of yourself, who will look back and be thankful that you didn't quit just because no one was watching. That future version of you, confident, calm, unshakable, is built right now in silence. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, every time you push through even when your mind screams to stop, every time you remind yourself, this is for me, not for them. You don't owe the world an explanation for your isolation. You don't need to tell them why you're distant, why you're quiet, or why you've pulled away. They'll understand when they see the results, and even if they don't, it doesn't matter, because the goal isn't to be seen. The goal is to be unrecognizable to the version of you that once settled, once doubted, once procrastinated. That version of you is gone, or at least it should be, so focus hard. Focus like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Your peace, your potential, your purpose, all of it lives on the other side of relentless focus. You don't need more people, you don't need more noise, you need more clarity, more silence, and more consistency. Become the person you've been avoiding, do the work in private, let your results speak volumes. Because one day, when they finally notice, they'll say, I didn't see this coming, and you'll smile not for recognition, but because you knew the whole time. People will only support you when it's easy to support you when you've already made it, when the success is undeniable, when you no longer need their help. That's when they show up, not because they always believed in you, but because they now believe in your results. That's a bitter truth that many discover too late. Until you win, most people will ignore you. They'll question your goals, criticize your methods, laugh at your ambition, not because you're wrong, but because you're still invisible. In their eyes, effort without results is meaningless. And that's why your early phase, the silent grind, the long nights, the self-doubt is the most important part of your journey. You need to learn how to be your own supporter when no one claps, to stand tall when you have no reassurance, no one checking in, no one encouraging you. That's when character is built. That's when mental strength is formed in the silence, in the dark, when it feels like you're moving forward and no one even notices. Because the truth is, no one is obligated to care about your potential. No one owes you support for a dream that hasn't manifested yet. So if you're waiting for people to validate your journey, you've already lost, because they won't, not until you win. That's why this journey has to be personal, deeply, aggressively personal. You have to want it for yourself more than anyone else could ever want it for you. You have to chase the vision with tunnel vision, blocking out every voice, every doubt, every distraction. Because you're not just chasing a goal, you're building a version of yourself who cannot be denied. A version of yourself that's unshakable, not because life got easier, but because you got harder, stronger, clearer. When you finally win, and you will, the very people who dismissed you will act like they always believed in you. They'll switch sides so fast you won't even recognize their loyalty. They'll repost your success, retell your story, and recite your quotes not out of admiration, but because now you've earned their attention. And that's why your motivation must never come from people, because people are inconsistent. They love a winner, not a warrior. They celebrate the results, not the sacrifice. And if you build your drive on applause, you'll collapse the moment it goes silent again. So what do you do instead? You stop seeking their approval. You stop trying to be understood. You stop explaining your path. You just work. Work when it hurts. Work when it's lonely. Work when it feels like nothing is changing. Because it is just not in ways the world can see yet. Every rep, every rejection, every small win is compounding. And while they're laughing, while they're doubting, while they're sleeping, you're transforming. This is why most people never break through. They give up too early. They expect support from people who are too small to see the vision. But real winners, they keep going with or without a crowd, with or without validation. With or without applause, they keep showing up because the mission is bigger than the moment. And when they finally arrive, when the results are undeniable, they're not surprised, because they never needed the crowd to begin with. So if you're alone right now, if no one sees you, if no one understands your grind good, that means you're exactly where you need to be. Keep going, because once you win, everything changes. But until then, stop expecting others to believe. Believe in yourself so hard that their silence becomes fuel. Your pain is your power if you learn how to use it. But most people run from pain. They hide it, numb it, deny it. And by doing so, they miss one of the most powerful tools life gives them. See, the problem isn't that you've been hurt. The problem is what you do with that hurt. Most people let pain break them. Winners let pain build them. And that difference, that simple mindset shift, is what separates the people who rise from the people who stay stuck. Pain teaches. It reveals who you are when everything else is stripped away. It strips the ego. It humbles you. It forces you to look in the mirror and ask the hard questions. Why did this happen? What did I ignore? What do I need to change? But instead of asking those questions, most people distract themselves. They bury the pain under fake smiles, temporary pleasures, and the illusion of strength. But nothing buried ever dies. It just waits to rise again when you're most vulnerable. And unless you face it, that same pain will follow you. It'll shape your decisions, your habits, your relationships until you either confront it or become it. You want to change your life? Start with the pain you keep avoiding. Sit with it. Feel it fully. Let it burn, but don't let it consume you. Let it clarify what matters, what doesn't, and who you really are underneath the mask. Because real growth doesn't happen when you're comfortable. It happens in the storm, in the struggle, when you're broken and have to rebuild piece by piece. That's when your real power shows up. Not when life is easy, but when life is testing you, pushing you, daring you to quit. Most people look at successful individuals and think they had it easy. What they don't see are the nights of doubt, the betrayals, the rejections, the pain that no one clapped for. Behind every strong person is a story they don't talk about. A chapter filled with silent suffering, private battles, and decisions that had to be made alone. That's the reality. That's the truth no one wants to hear. You want the life you dream of? Then you need to embrace the pain you've been running from. Because that's where the breakthrough lives, on the other side of discomfort. You can't heal what you won't face. You can't grow if you're always playing it safe. And you'll never rise if you're still blaming others for your fall. Pain forces you to choose, stay a victim or rise a victor. That choice is yours, every day, every moment. You can use the pain as an excuse, or you can use it as a weapon. Let it sharpen you. Let it remind you that nothing comes easy. Let it fuel the fire that gets you up when you're exhausted, keeps you going when no one believes, and drives you forward when the odds are stacked against you. If you're hurting right now, good. That means you're alive. That means you have something to work with. Don't waste it. Channel it. Build from it. Turn your pain into purpose, your wounds into wisdom, and your scars into strength. Because the world doesn't need more people pretending to be okay. It needs people who have been through hell and still choose to rise. Be one of them. Let your pain remind you not of what broke you, but of what you're building now. Most people don't really care. That's a brutal truth most aren't ready to hear. When you talk about your problems, you might think you're being heard. You might believe someone is genuinely interested in what you're going through. But more often than not, they're just waiting for their turn to speak, or worse. They're filing your weaknesses away as data to use against you later. This isn't about being paranoid. It's about being aware. The world listens to winners. Until then, your pain is background noise to most people. When you constantly share your problems, you unknowingly train people to see you as the person who always has problems. You become the one who complains, the one who's struggling, the one who never has it together. Even if your pain is real, even if it's justified, you start to wear it like an identity, and that identity becomes a trap. You lose control of your image. People no longer see your potential. They only see your patterns, and unfortunately, Sympathy has a short shelf life. In the beginning, they might listen, but eventually they tune out. They move on, they leave. There's a difference between seeking help and seeking attention. One leads to growth, the other to dependency. Sharing your struggles with a mentor, a therapist, or someone you trust is powerful, but oversharing with people who aren't invested in your healing, that's just draining, not just for them, for you. Every time you repeat the story of your suffering to someone who can't or won't help you rise, you reinforce your victimhood. You replay the same emotional movie in your head. And over time, that story becomes your reality. Strong people aren't the ones who never break. They're the ones who learn to break in silence and rebuild in private. The ones who use pain as fuel, not as a conversation starter. They disappear when they are hurting and reappear when they've sharpened themselves in the dark. That's power, that's maturity, that's what it means to live with discipline and direction. Not everyone deserves access to your broken moments. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your healing. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Let your growth be the only explanation. Let your results do the talking. You don't need validation for your pain. You don't need applause for your struggle. What you need is silence, focus, and a clear vision of where you're going. Talk less, do more. Complain less, build more. Seek less sympathy, and earn more respect. Because people respect those who transform quietly. They admire the ones who were down and came back stronger, not the ones who stayed down and talked about why they couldn't get up. The truth is, nobody owes you understanding. Life doesn't come with a built-in support team. You have to be your own motivator, your own therapist, your own coach at times. That doesn't mean isolation, it means ownership. Take control of your energy. Guard your story. Channel your pain into something useful. Stop telling people your problems and start showing them your progress. In the end, it's not your problems that define you. It's how you rise after them. In that part, the rising happens in silence. Let them see the results and wonder how you did it. That's real power.